What comes to mind when the word mystical is uttered? Mysticism in Indonesia is not a taboo, especially on the island of Java, which is very thick with supernatural things. One of the small towns located on the north coast of West Java, famous for its natural beauty and culinary and handicraft wealth, which are the main attractions for tourists, is actually shrouded in something related to the supernatural. This terrifying night story comes from one of the residents of Indramayu who almost fell into Pesugihan Ngipri. The story of Uwa Jatma, who used to be a student at a pesantren for 7 years, turned out to be shaken in his faith to try the express route in looking for money. Kang Jatma used to be a vegetable seller in a small shop, finally gave in to fate because since the monetary crisis forced Jatma to stop selling, even though it was the only income to support his wife and one child. Kang Jatma, who was filled with despair, met Mang Jaya and was offered a Pesugihan in Pulomas or Indramayu. People usually call it Pesugihan. Because his determination to support his wife was very strong, Kang Jatma followed Mang Jaya's advice to go to Pulomas in the hope of getting a lot of wealth from another world. By willing to sell his goats in order to get severance pay to go to the place of Pesugihan. Arriving in Pulomas, Kang Jatma met Pak Kunsi Water, who would later help him meet Nyai Ratu to get supernatural Pesugihan. However, his efforts failed because Nyai Ratu did not meet him in his dream. Kang Jatma returned home feeling dissatisfied because the Pesugihan he did failed. Did Jatma immediately repent with that failure? It turned out that Jatma still justified all means and looked for a way to get the Pesugihan. It didn't stop there. Kang Jatma visited the house of his friend, a successful grocery store seller named Jaya. From his friend's story, Jatma concluded that his friend was doing Pesugihan in the Garut area, precisely in the Sancang forest. Later, the Pesugihan was carried out with a fairy marriage ritual. Jatma arrived home, armed with information from Jaya. Jatma immediately asked for the blessing of his wife and parents so that he could go smoothly to do the Pesugihan. His father advised him, but in the end Jatma continued with his intention. With the money from selling his goat, Jatma went to Garut and looked for a key man named Agus. The journey was from morning to evening. Arriving at Mr. Agus' house, Jatma was given a lot of advice that asking for sustenance from the supernatural is not always successful. Indramayu people call it Nutugia Mara Nafsu, lust will not have any guidance. Jatma's strong determination defeated all of Mr. Kunsi's arguments, and finally Mr. Kunsi explained that if he won, Jatma was sure he had to sleep in the Sancang forest and had to meet Suminten. Jatma had to make a fairy marriage contract, marry Suminten to be made Jatma's supernatural wife, and if Suminten got pregnant and her child was born, then Jatma had to die to take care of their child. Jatma agreed and they went on a journey the next day. The journey went up and down mountains, and the place was not in a cemetery but in the middle of a forest where there was a large tree commonly called a kapua tree. In the past, that place was used as a place of meditation by a young Prabhu Silwanji, precisely in the Sancang forest. The tree had a room that was used as a resting place at the direction of Pak Kunsi. Jatma finally slept in that room without any lighting and had to fast for 3 days. Slowly it passed until Pak Kunsi came, but Jatma had not dreamed of meeting Suminten. Finally, Jatma stayed in the Sancang forest for 2 more days. However, until the time ran out, it turned out that he still had not met Suminten. They made a mature decision to return to Pak Kunsi's house. Strangely, when they arrived at Pak Kunsi's house, Suminten followed. Jatma could not see Suminten. Pak Kunsi who told Jatma that Suminten was following them. Suminten possessed Pak Kunsi's wife and said, "I don't want to marry Kang Jatma. I like Kang Jatma, I love Kang Jatma, but Suminten can't stand being close to Kang Jatma. It's hot," said Suminten, which was heard by Pak Kunsi. After Suminten left, Pak Kunsi told Jatma. Jatma explained that he used to go to a boarding school for 7 years. People who are already deeply rooted in religious knowledge must memorize the verses of the Quran. That's what makes all the Pesugihan that Jatma tries always fail. All creatures who want to get close will feel hot because of the purity of the Quran that Jatma once studied and memorized. Jatma realized the mistake of his attitude and chose to return home to his wife. Then they made a small business that could finally support them and meet all their needs without having to use Pesugihan methods.